Great. Duo2Go thing. Thanks a lot for having me. I do appreciate it. Um, well, RGB to go, it was sort of my brainchild to getting a bit more involved in the Christmas light community. Um, I think it seems like the natural step. Once you get your own light show going, you really want to start helping others do the same, right? So I went all out. I bought a Cope controller on my house. I put it on my house, put up thousands of lights, and the crowds came, just like they tend to do. And naturally, the question, so how can I do that, would be coming out of everybody's mouth. And then you start showing them all the lights, you start showing them the controllers, and they quickly become overwhelmed. And they, you know, they forget how much they want to actually do it. So what I decided to do was to make, at first, the lights and accessories a bit more accessible. RGB to go started as just a basic storefront delivering pixels and accessories. And that was mainly for the people on the East Coast, because I live in New York, and most of the vendors that I've dealt with were on the West Coast, and obviously China, who the shipping times are just kind of crazy. So by sort of warehousing some things here on the East Coast, I figured we could offer some people some shorter wait times, and again, make the hobby a little bit more enjoyable, because you get your parts a little sooner, and you can get playing right away. So that's how it started. Um, as far as the controllers are concerned, those are new this year. Uh, I've been playing with them for a while, and we all started. Well, I started doing the ESP 8266 manual controller back when I started, because I didn't want to buy a $300 Falcon. So I I breadboarded the whole thing. I killed an ESP 8266 or two. I shocked myself a couple times, and I think after about 2 weeks, I finally got lights to work. So that was a great moment. Uh, so what I want to do was make so people didn't have to go through what I went through. So what the Duo to Go is my 2-port controller here. So if I can put it up here, so there we go. It is a small form factor Wi-Fi pixel controller. Now, I know Wi-Fi tends to be a bit of a trigger for people here. So I just want to say up front, this is not a whole house pixel controller. This was my answer to those people who came up to my house asking how could I get started. This is a very small introductory board based on an ESP 8266, not a very powerful computer, but enough to run 1,000 to 1,200 pixels, and it can get you started. It can get those guys up and running with some lights strung across their porch, across their front door, across their front window, to get them into the hobby, to really foster that love without having to spend a whole lot of money. So that's pretty much what that is. And as far as the difference between this and a typical 8266 controller, I've done a bit of customizations to make it fit the parts in our industry a bit. The first being obviously Phoenix connectors. There's a lot of controllers out there on the market that don't necessarily have the same connectors that we have. It fits both 12 and 5-volt pixels, and it has 33 ohm resistors on it to support the X-Connect cables a little bit farther. And if I can take this controller off, you can see there is a non-inverting IC buffer which will do the level shifting, so you can send your signal from this controller, roughly 60 to 75 feet to your first pixel, which is nice because most of the controllers I get limited. I think the Culp I was using has I want to say 100 ohm resistor on it, and I wasn't getting more than 10, 15 feet without having to use an F amp. So that was helpful for me, and hopefully other people found it useful. So that's the controller. Was there any questions? I don't have the feed open, so Clyde, if you want to, feel free to moderate for me. Wow, I was figuring I was going to trigger a lot of people. Okay, we will do that. You want me to just jump into the unboxing here and we'll start? I got it all handled here, man. We're good. You guys can see my table, right? You can see the
Can
table.
I just add, Jason, that your crossfade onto something else was incredible. If that would have been Clyde, we'd be standing by for 15 minutes while we figured out which switch he was flipping, and he'd be turning YouTube on.
You guys are amazing. All righty. So this is the starter kit. Again, as I mentioned before, and I'm kind of taking my time. I'm so confident this is going to go pretty fast. The controller is one thing, but for a complete beginner, you need a little bit more than a controller, right? You need your power supply, you need your cables, you need your lights, and that's what the ready to go starter kit is. It includes everything you need to get some lights blinking straight away. So this is a box as you would receive it in the mail. And this includes everything that we ship out as part of our $99 package. So I'm just going to open this up like you would. They are in stock now. They are going really fast. So again, this is again how it's shipped. I will try and get everything out here and organize it. We have our AC cable, which you're going to need for your power supply. We have our DC cable, which goes from the controller to the power supply. We have our Meanwell LRS 350 12-volt power supply. 2 strings of 100 count bullet pixels. And the controller itself. I'm trying to line this up underneath the camera. As you open it up, I have some nice documentation that will show people how to plug the controller in if they're not familiar, namely showing you the polarity of the connections on the pixels and the polarity of the power connector and the 12 versus 5 volt jumper. So the controller itself, I come shipped with a little stand that just helps against shorts I found. So I've 3D printed dozens of these. So I include these with the controllers as I can. The controller itself, again, everything's in a nice ESD bag. I work with computer servers, so I'm really paranoid about ESD. So there's the controller. Let me get we'll organize real quick and we'll start from square one here. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is set up the power supply. Now these are genuine Meanwells, 29 amp, 350 watt power supplies. I have these already preset to 115 volts, and they are tuned to 11.9 volts on the DC side. Again, that's you can adjust it, but that's the setting I've found I've liked the most and worked well. So that's what I send them out as. That can be customized if you'd like. Either I can do it or you can do it yourself. Okay, sorry, just checking questions. Don't see anything. Gotcha. Okay, AC cables have got some spades on them already. Makes connecting a little easier. Black cable is load, white cable is neutral, green cable is ground. I apologize. A lot of you have seen this 100 different times and been through this even more. But for somebody who is completely starting out, this is every step you need to go through to get going. Okay, not going to plug that in just yet. Let's set that aside. Okay, I'm going to quickly mount my controller onto my 3D printed stand just to avoid the possibility of shorting anything out underneath. Ah, And you know what? I work with servers that cost upwards of, you know, $50,000 to $100,000, and I would be lying to say I didn't do something stupid like that. So not with the $50,000 servers, but it can happen to anybody. That it does. So let me open up the DC power cable here. Okay, and again, the DC power cable, these are come pre-crimped with ferrules, color coded. The biggest problem people have, I've found starting out, is screwing up the polarity on these cables. It seems straightforward, but you get moving and you get going so quick. And before you know it, you've plugged things in backwards and poof, you've let the magic smoke out.
So, Jason, there's a question on Facebook
Sure.
from Ben, longtime listener, first time caller. Okay, I have a question because I won one of these. I am on my second year and I have two F48 V4s with 18 differential receivers running about 30,000 pixels. How can I incorporate this guy into my show, or can I? I don't use Wi-Fi and I ran everything off of FPP. Could I use it inside my house or for something on the side? I just don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to Wi-Fi controllers.
Okay. Let's see here. These are perfect. I found two really good uses for these personally in my own show. Again, I don't use them to run my house, but I run my Tune 2 sign with this. It allows me to not just have a solid color Tune 2 sign going all the time, which, you know, is nice. And I use it for my selfie displays, like the you know, the Gilbert engine or the FO wings that you can do. Something that doesn't really need to be timed with other devices, because that's really where the Wi-Fi sort of gets you, is the latency. And when you get like 3 or 4 of these things together over a high latency Wi-Fi network, things aren't going to line up just right. But if they're running by themselves, or if they're a small prop on the side of your display, like a Tune 2 sign or a selfie stand, something like that, they behave pretty well. And you would govern them the same way. You can, I'll show you later how we can connect to this thing in xLights, and you can treat this just like a controller you would, like a Culp or a Falcon, when sequencing your show. So hopefully I answered that.
Now, also, I think this controller would be something good to use, like maybe on your inside Christmas tree, right?
Oh, it'd be great, and it's small.
Yeah, it'd be one of those great little things where guests come over and you can change
Yep.
the tree and show them things like that right from your cell phone.
Yep, obviously, and I'm a 3D printing hobbyist, by no means a professional with Fusion 360 or anything, but I've been putting together some 3D printed cases for these things. These are completely free. The STLs are available on my Discord right now. They will be on the website shortly, as soon as things start calming down. But they fit in there nicely, and power cables go on the side. Phoenix connectors come out the back. So yeah, this mounted on your wall or mounted behind your tree is not terribly obtrusive. And you know, when you're doing just a tree, you can there's no reason you need to use a 29 amp power supply. You can get away with like a 3 amp wall wart. So definitely keeps the form factor down. So where were we? Okay, so I got the DC cable plugged in. I got the AC cable plugged in. Let me get the lights out here. Okay, so in the unit, you'll get 2 strands of 100 count bullet pixels. Now, I ship these with the female pigtail attached and the Phoenix connector already attached. So it is simply just a matter of plugging these things in. Ground is on the left. It's all clearly marked on the board. Make sure you plug these in the right way. Again, I've already mounted the cable, so it's kind of hard to do incorrectly. But if you're doing them on your own, just pay attention to those, the labeling. Okay, so we have, make sure they're both in the camera feed there. We're good. So again, double checking everything. Power's on top, black to ground. On the AC side, we have load, neutral, and ground. I have V negative, V positive, everything looks good. So we're going to plug this thing in and hope things don't go poof. Okay. Don't worry that all the lights aren't lighting up. That is a WLED setting. So now this runs WLED software. Now, if anybody have used those before, it's really user friendly. I'm going to throw this up here. This is just standard cell phone. I'm going to connect it to your Wi-Fi. Once the RBTG-Go powers up, it's going to broadcast an AP, the WLED AP-Duo2Go. Click on that. Once it connects, click on it again. I'll give it a moment. There we go. And the WLED interface is going to show up. From here, you can either control them directly from here, as I'm doing so here, or you can set an IP and place it permanently on your wireless network, which let me double check, but I believe I did. Yes, I did. So I think I have that. Okay, how about that? Can you guys see that? I'm not hearing anything. I hope you guys can still hear me. Okay, good. So that's just simple. Again, for those who don't really understand WLED or have never seen it before, it's a really straightforward interface. You can click the color wheel or click effects. My first task here is to go into the config menu and set up my LEDs. We're going to stop first to make sure that your power supply is set up properly. While this is a 29 amp power supply, there is a 5 amp fuse on each of the outputs of this controller. And while you can't control each output individually, you can use a cumulative amount. This could be maxed out at about 10,000 milliamps or 10 amps. I tend to do about 80% of that just to play it safe. So that's why that's set right there. Currently, the two strings are set up here as RGB strings, both set up as 50 pixel strings. We're going to change that to 100. That's output 1, and this is output 2. And then we'll save our settings. And then all of our lights come on. Okay, so we have lights. So I don't know how long that was. I wasn't really keeping track. I know the timer going, but if you're comfortable playing around with the WLED interface, oops, I turned that off. There are hundreds of effects in here. So for somebody who is new to this, just wants to set up lights on their porch, just wants to start, or again, like Robert said, get something up on your Christmas tree. These are wonderful. And there's hundreds of effects and completely customizable. What are the more popular ones? There's, let's see, rainbow is always popular, which kind of resembles the butterfly effect in xLights. But again, these are linear effects, right? They don't really know where the nodes are. They're just sending a pattern down the string. So there we are. As a newbie, you've just unpackaged this, you've got it running, and now you've got some lights. You can either stop here, but we know you're not going to. So what do we think's next? Do you want me to, we can start moving to xLights? Sure. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't catch those. Now these starter kits, just to tell my own one, these, if you were to price all this stuff together, you're talking almost $140 that I've already discounted off the cuff to 99. I'm that confident that this is what a beginner needs. Yep, it's very Wi-Fi. You can set schedules. You can set this, have some at certain time, a certain pattern starts to play. You save it. It happens every day. You can configure it to work with your Amazon Echo devices. So you can say, I'm not going to say the A word and start all my devices going, but you say, Christmas tree lights on, and they're on. It does. Let me now that I got the screen open here. Sorry. LED preferences. So here we configure your LEDs. Right now it's configured by default for WS28 1X or 11 is what these are. You can see it supports all sorts of different lights. The SK6812s are RGBWs. The TM1814s, I believe, are also RGBWs. So it really depends on the chip of the lights you purchase, but you can easily reference this with what lights you're purchasing to see if they're supported. Correct. Yes, you're right. Yes. There you go. There is not. And again, sorry. I Yeah, I can show this off while I'm at it. I have a 4-port in the works, and again, I'm not rushing through these.
Ooh, exclusive showing coming.
Again, this is totally dev. I mentioned this at the New York. I showed this off at the New York Mini, so I can show it. This is what I call the Tetra2Go. This is running off of an ESP32, and again, it has 4 ports, 4 5-amp outputs. Again, supports both 5 and 12 volts. It does have an SD card option on it. Well, it's not an option; it's built into it. Again, not quite there yet. It does work beautifully as far as WLED is concerned. There's a couple things I wanted to make work. I really want to get reverse polarity protection figured out before I release this, because that's the biggest problem I have. Again, as I mentioned earlier, people crossing the power on those. If I can get reverse polarity protection on there, that's great. I want this to be able to support the ES Pixel Stick firmware, which would allow you to use this as an FPP remote. I mean, one of the Wi-Fi really does limit you, as I mentioned before, towards using this as a whole house controller. But if we can either incorporate one of two things, it becomes a whole house controller. One of those things would be onboard storage. With onboard storage, you can use it as an FPP remote. You're just syncing the timing packets over Wi-Fi, completely usable. Maybe not on Christmas Light Fight, but as far as your home show, excellent. And 2 is wired Ethernet. That is also something that's, I would love to add down the road, because that would make it much more practical as far as, no latency is concerned. So that's coming. I'm hoping by next year. Yep. Right. And there's some nifty open source stuff out there that can read, FSEQ files and things like that. So it's just I'm not a software guy, so it's just, Mhm. No. I went through a pre-order stage already. We are in stock right now. Anything anything ordered tonight would ship first thing tomorrow morning. So and and shipping is really affordable on these things. These things are very small. They fit in a small 4x4 box. They ship for less than, I'd say, in most cases around the country, less than $8. In a lot of cases, less than 6, maybe. No, it's not actually. It's U.S. Postal Service has this new first class package where they call it Ground Advantage or something. So it tends to be. Let's see if I can find the box it ships in here. Yeah, they're pretty small boxes. So yeah, so it fits in something like this, and that this ships incredibly cheap, and I can get across the country usually in 3 to 4 days. So and that's if you purchase the controller by itself. So the boxes for the starter kit are a bit bigger. Those have to ship out UPS. Mhm. Correct. Yes, that's the dream, right? We'll get to there eventually, but that's the thing. I didn't want to wait really. I have so many people coming up to me asking how I can get started, and this will get you started, and hopefully it's enough to get your palate wet, and then what do they call the gateway drug, right? You get addicted. Now you're in. Now it's just hard to justify spending $300-400 on a controller on unless you really know you're going to love it. And I think what this has been serving for the people that I've been dealing with personally is it gets them into it. It gets them loving this. They get their porch all decorated, set up, and then they're like, okay, now where do I go? And that's when I introduce them. Well, hopefully in the future I'll introduce them to my Tetra up. But for now, that's when I point them towards the Culps. That's when I point them towards the Falcons, and that's when we show them the power of xLights and what you can do with that. So the 20, oh, was it the 20th or 23rd? I can't remember. I, yeah, it's the 23rd. We'll do that. That's fine. Right. It's the retail price is $49. I've pretty much been selling it at 39 since inception. Um I 24 is just is lower than I've ever done it before. Oh yeah, nowhere else. This. Right. The starter kit is regularly priced like 130 something, and it's bundle priced at $99. Yes, there is both a Android app in the Google Play Store, and there is a Apple app that can search for controllers on your local area network, connect to them, and allow you to control them. Essentially, it's sort of gateway to this web interface you're seeing here. But the difference is you need to know the IP address to type it in your browser, right? But if you don't know the IP address, that app can do a discovery on your network and find it. So the app is much easier. And again, this software is written by a gentleman whose handle is Air Cookie. Uh, he is absolutely amazing. So we do as a we contribute to his project as well. This is such a big part of our you know business here that we do support Air Cookie as well, and we encourage others to do it the same. I've had, let's say, I don't think I've had people do battery in 5 volts. I've had people configure this with a battery with 12 volts. I don't see any reason why a 5 volt wouldn't work. Um, I mean, you run into the issue with amperage and how much, you're dealing with a whole lot more amps on a 5 volt battery. Right. Mhm. Right. Right. And just to sort of head that off, there is a USB connector on the end of these boards, right? As we were talking about the small USB connector. We do recommend that not be used. Obviously, if you want to take it off the board and put it on your computer to reprogram it, that's fine. But we wouldn't recommend powering pixels through that 5 volt connector because you're dealing with the voltage regulator on the ESP, and that really is not terribly beefy. You could easily overload that and damage your ESP. If there has been a way to catch something on fire, I have done it in a good way, right? It's testing, all in the name of testing. I started designing these in December. And then I sort of handpicked a select group of people from the Facebook groups that I've been communicating with to help me test these out. I have a good base of about 2 dozen people who just helped me break these in any way imaginable. Testing how far can we get the signal to go, testing how much can the traces actually handle, even though it says it's only 5 amps, how far can we go? We spent about a solid month of just trying to break them. And then I think I started selling these late February and early March is when I actually started doing pre-orders. That's when I was making them by hand. And then since then they're being made in a PCB manufacturing facility. So it's come a long way in just 7 months now. Mhm. Hmm. Mhm. Well, honestly, my motivation. This is going to sound totally self-centered. It's what do I need to make my show better? And if that can help other people, great. I would love that if I can make something that makes my own show better, and then it doesn't stop there, and I can see it in these great videos people send me, showing that I didn't just help myself out, I was able to contribute back to this community that has given me so much in the past several years, especially during COVID. Um, and that's just amazing. That's just great. I do have a couple other things. Let's see what we were talking about. I showed you this one. Let me switch my cameras here before I stand up.
You have a customer that says they ordered one of these a couple months ago, and they loved it so much they just ordered 3 more this morning.
Yeah, I think I remember that. They were 3 starter kits, if I remember correctly. So yeah, they've been quite popular, and the community's developing, right? I love the community aspect of this is even better than the electronic part of it.
And somebody else asked, do you use xLights to run a prop with these?
I do, and I will get to how are we doing, Clyde? Should I get on that quick, or are we? Yeah, no problem. Gotcha. Okay, well that's getting the board up and running. Okay. Oh, no worries. Okay, so
And
it's like let me.
and you are correct, Alex. PPD is running a sell for the rest of the time we're in business that you do get free shipping on all sequences. That is correct.
All right. Let me get xLights up and running here. Now I got to preface this by saying in the latest version of xLights 2023-10, the add controller functionality is a little broken. I have since talked to Scott, and I believe he's working on it. He's given me a workaround, but for now I've got 2023-09 installed, and that seems to work well. You guys should be able to see my xLights screen, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so this is completely empty, brand new. So you've got your controller set up, you know it's IP. From here, you'll click on the controllers tab, and I'm kind of assuming people have a little bit of knowledge of xLights here. Other than that, it's just super daunting if you're seeing it for the first time. So under the controllers tab, click on Add Ethernet. Over on the right-hand side, you can enter some parameters under name. Gotcha. Will do. So under name, I'm just naming it something that's obvious for me. If I have 4 duos, I'll name them Duo 1, Duo 2, Duo 3, Duo 4. Under description, something that like porch, front porch or something like that. So you have an idea of where it's located. And that didn't type for some reason. Here we go. Okay, under vendor, and you'll see a bunch of vendors you recognize here. I'm hoping you guys can see the drop-down menu as part of my screen share.
No, we can't.
Oh, you can't? Okay, well then, and this you're going to choose WLED.
Oh, now we see WLED.
You can see what I've selected, but you can't see my drop-down menu. Got it.
Correct. So when you select this, it has a whole bunch of vendors in there from A to Z, from everybody that you can imagine.
Pixeltic, Falcon, FPP, Hanson Electronics, all that stuff is there.
Yeah.
WLED is, while they're not a vendor, there are a lot of ESP82, 66, and ESP32 platforms. So that's what they put it under. Under model, I've talked, Scott was generous enough to include the Duo2Go profile in 2023-09. So that from here on
out. So the model was Duo2Go.
Correct. One of those is the RGB, right? RGB2Go-Duo2Go. That will configure it for the GPIOs that I've programmed on this board and for the 2 ports. Auto layout models should stay checked. Auto size should stay checked. This will allow us to visualize just like you would a Falcon controller or a Culp controller. Now we'll put in the IP address. Let's see if I think it's 10.1.1. This is my show network. Okay. Protocol. This is a bit of a sticking point. A lot of people still use E131. I did have lots of issues on Wi-Fi with E131, and a majority of those issues disappeared when I switched over to DDP. I use that with my Culp controller as well. I've had 0 problems, and it's been working really well even with my Wi-Fi stuff. WLED does support both. And then we unchuck keep channel numbers. And over here on the left-hand side, we click save. All right, now we go from the controllers tab over to the layout tab. I've got my house there. We're going to create a new string. Again, I apologize. I'm not much of an xLights expert, so we'll do our best here. We're going to create 2 string models. Again, for now, that's all we really need. You don't need to create string models. You can do whatever you like. You could put this in, whatever prop you have. Under string, I'm just going to go over here and set it to 100 node string. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to be any more detailed. Then we're going to create another string because we have 2 outputs on this controller. Again, going to call it 100 output, 100 node string, and save. Okay. Going to go back to the controller tab. And we're going to click the visualize button. Now this is the easiest way to send your xLights configuration to whatever controller you're using, even if it's not the Duo2Go. This works with culps and those as well. So I'm going to take the first string and drag it over to pixel port 1. Going to take the second string and drag it over to pixel port 2. Can you guys see the second window or no? Oh, good. Okay, I wasn't sure how perfect. Okay. And then the magic happens when you upload the output. So if we only configured 30 LED strings in xLights, this would automatically configure the outputs on WLED to be 30 pixels. So it just so happens that I had 100 programmed in before, and we programmed it with 100 now. But as you can see, they all reset and went back to the default of yellow, which means the outputs have been configured properly. So we have the controllers, that's all saved. We're going to go over to the sequencer tab, make the magic happen. Going to create a new sequence. Again, these pixels can handle 40 frames per second if you keep them around 500 pixels per output or less. I'm just going to do 20 just to make this go quicker. But it does support 40 frames per second if you keep the pixel output below 500. All right, we see both lines there. I'm just going to throw, let's see, timing mark in there so I'll throw rainbow on the first one. And I'll throw a bar effect on the second one. And right. Okay. So I've got an effect playing on both of those. We'll do the whole save render. This is all force of habit. And I'll hit play. And then the magic happens when I hit the output to lights button. There we go. So you can see I've got, actually, let me close that so you can see what's going on here. We've got this string of 100 doing that red and white bar effect. Again, they're all bundled up, so you can't really see the effect clearly, but if it was strung out, it would look just like it did in xLights. And this bundle on port 1 is doing the rainbow effect. So really, really not too bad to set up in xLights. And I've had... Correct. Right. Yes. You know what? It should, and occasionally it does. But for some reason now it doesn't look like it is. Oh, I wonder if it's because I've got the output going right now. One sec. It tends to throw me off when I do things. Let me try changing between tabs. Sometimes it just doesn't refresh right. Now, I'm not going to do that because it may not come back on the stream. Right. But that's usually a good, so when it's green, you know you're connected to it. When you're red, you might be connecting to it. Yes. Yep. I'm changing the nodes to 30 while you're talking, just so you know. I'm going to upload the 30 nodes, and it just, well, I may have to unpause. The other nodes are stuck on, but you'll see the patterns will only happen. Yep. Derek Whitaker made I linked this in my Discord, but I can put it on my website as well. An SDL that you can print that you can also mount a power supply to it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, it's right here. Oh, I got everything tonight available tonight. All right, let me switch over to my other camera. All right, so here we go. Essentially, it's just a 3D printed mount that you can attach on the bottom. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, so this isn't attached, but it can easily screw into the holes. The controller attaches to this, and this can fit into a Harbor Freight 30 caliber ammo can. Yes. Yep. Again, this is made by Derek Whitaker, and he makes this available for free. Yeah. And fair disclosure, Tim's one of my testers. So Tim's been one of the guys helping me beat the heck out of these things. So yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Thank you. Mhm. I can find it. Give me one moment. It's not on the website yet. It's just, one of my been trying to get around to it and just haven't, but it's on my Discord. Let me get a link and you're talking about for the Harbor, well, the Harbor Freight mount. Yeah, I have that. 1 second. Yeah, I also have a Discord, folks. I'll post a link to that in the chat. You're all welcome to join. This is where we discuss what people want to see going forward. So it's a great place to hang out, and it's a great place to have some input as far as new features. So let me put that. I'll paste that in the chat. There we go. Yeah. And that's it's funny because my guys are like, "Oh, you got to make these ready to run boxes," and I'm like, "Man, I suck at ready to run boxes." I thank the Lord for Ricky Coltier for making so I did not have to wire my own box because I'm just so bad. I can attest to that. Mhm. Oh, sure. Right. And again, I'm just addressing needs, right? That's really what I want to do. If I can make people's lives easier, awesome. One thing a lot of us have in our garage that we tend not to use anymore are those old 50/50 pixels that are PWM driven that don't work so great in xLights anymore. So with the help of Mark Williams, we developed what we call the DAC2Go, the digital analog converter to go. I apologize, that's a mirror image, but what this does is this allows you to treat an entire string of dumb pixels as a single node in xLights. So again, perfect for like the top of a fence, something you don't need to put an effect across, but you'd like to maintain color. And this brings all those lights in my garage that I no longer use back into play. Yes, yes, it is. Yep, that's it. Mhm. Right. Yep. And again, this is proof of concept, so who knows where it's going to go, right? So none, these are not for sale yet. These are just I've got people out playing with them, testing them. So and not to mention these since these are just PWM controllers, you can control servos. You can control like the the waving frosty. You could issue a command in xLights to start the hand waving or something like that. So thinking a little bit outside the box, you can take something like this that you normally would only use for lights and actually make it a game changer as far as like automation. Yes. Right. Mhm. So uh it can. If you have if you have enough amperage coming from your controller to support the lights, you can power it from your controller. There is a jumper on there that would allow you to use the auxiliary 2-pin power input. Yep. There's the jumper right above that. So you can power it with 12 volts coming from your pixels from the left. Again, prototype only supports 12 volts coming in. Um, and then pigtail that and you relay that going to another set of pixels. But if you wanted to power, say, a 5-volt string of dumb pixels, you could do that from here if you plug 5-volt power supply in the auxiliary, or you can plug a 12-volt in the auxiliary and power 12-volt pixels. But that is optional depending on how many amps you have to spare on your controller. Mhm. Yes, down the road, we're getting there. Um, let's see. Correct. Right. You can't save a sequence to it because there's no storage on it. So you have to broadcast to it. Something has to broadcast the data to the Duo. Yeah. Oh, I do have one more thing to show off if everybody's wants, if we have any time. If not, I can. Um, everybody here knows, I hope they know what a differential receiver is and whether they use them in their show or not. Um, typically, you don't hear too much about a differential transmitter except what's built onto certain controllers, right? The Falcons and the Culps both have the RJ45 ports built on, and it's up to you to get your own differential receiver to make those work. one thing I wanted to do, I didn't really want to. I used up all my ports on my Culp, but I had this one prop that I didn't have enough ports to get to, and it was like 200 feet away. So what I came up with was, let's see if I can put this up here. This is, and I don't have, you don't have one of these, but this is a differential transmitter. What this does, you connect this just like the PWM controller. You connect this to the end of your pixel string, and it converts the signal to RJ45. And then at the other end of that RJ45 cable, you have either our differential receiver or a standard, Falcon, Hanson, whatever differential receiver to receive the data. So you can actually take any pixel port on your controller or the end of any string of pixels on your controller and turn it into sort of an impromptu differential line. So you can, mhm, yeah, 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 right. So I think some people say it's a waste of a Cat5 cable because you're only putting one channel of data through what can fit four. But again, I just needed I do this because it's what I needed at the time. So I needed to get one string of lights an extra 200 feet because I needed to get it to my fence line, and I didn't want to have another cable coming from my controller traipsing across my yard. Whereas it would have been so much easier to use the end of the props I already had on the side of my yard just to extend them differentially to the fence, and it works great. So again, are you setting the IP address statically? Because the IP should be saved. I've Right. Or if you're network savvy, you can set a DHCP reservation in your router so that even if it's set to DHCP, it always gets the same address. But as far as I'm aware, WLED does remember those settings through uh, absences of power. It's all saved in the NVRAM. It's not memory that disappears without power. Mhm. Right. I think it's like a 16 port job. Yeah. It's just, again, great, but a little overkill for what I needed it for. So was there two? I thought Wizard of maybe it's not the one I was thinking of. Maybe I'm thinking of Hanson or something like that. It had like a 16 port. Is that actually a transmitter or is that a receiver? Oh, there we go. Yep. Oh, I see it now. Mhm. Yep. Hmm. That's true too. Thanks for having me. Hide, I sent you 4. You just gave them away. That's okay. Yes.
And free shipping. Free shipping on all sequences. Free international shipping.